Hello everybody, this is Waldorf.
And this is Statler.
And we're going to continue with our review of the 2.0 beta rulebook.
Section 18, Terrain.
So, what's changed in here? The dangerous terrain checks. If you march through dangerous terrain, you take a d6, and if you roll a 1, you get hurt.
Same as before.
The X. Same as it was before. The only thing that's a little different is
gigantic models.
Gigantic models roll 3, not 4 like it used to be.
Right.
All right. So terrain classifications.
So impassable terrain. You can't move through impassable terrain.
Wow, that's pretty.
Opaque terrain. Line of sight cannot be drawn through opaque terrain. It's not cloudy. It's actually solid. Can be drawn into or out of.
Okay. And covering terrain. Like models, terrain feature may contribute to cover when obscuring a fraction of a unit's footprint on a site. So if you're behind the terrain feature, for the purpose of counting as cover, terrain feature may distinguish. Use must have half the unit off the terrain feature if you're behind it. Yeah, this is what it was before. You have to be you have to be half out in the terrain to get the benefit from it, or behind the terrain if it's
or half, more than half behind. Yeah.
Opaque.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Models always ignore terrain they are inside of when they draw a line of sight, so
yep.
you can always see out of something without a problem.
Yep. So if you're in the back of the woods, you still see out of it with no problem.
And woods, I believe, are not open anyway.
Nope, they're covering.
The others may be a mixture of dangerous, opaque, and they're just adding the
terrain features is just putting the new rules,
the new names,
the new nomenclature. Yeah.
So here we come to a major change.
Really big change.
Is buildings. Buildings, if you recall, have gone back and forth in pretty much every edition of this that's ever in the world come out.
Yes, they're trying to settle on what works the best.
In the previous edition, buildings were not
they were very
allowed to be in there. They were
right.
just there. You could pass through them.
Certain units.
And that was it.
Yep.
So this is going to kill a couple of the videos we did. Moving on. Buildings are opaque terrains. You cannot see through buildings. They are impassable terrain with the exceptions listed below. Buildings must have a rectangular base. They contribute to hard cover. Anyway, units comprising entirely of large or standard size infantry and or beast models with a boundary rectangle of no bigger than 125 millimeters deep and wide can enter buildings.
Right, about 5 inches for
the 5 by 5 if you're orcs.
For those American type people.
And 6 by 6 if you're humans.
Yeah.
20 millimeter guys, right? Mm-hmm. A unit can enter a building by being deployed in or advance moving into an ungarrisoned building, or by destroying a garrison unit in combat and you move in and take its place. To enter a building with advance move, all models must start the advance move within their march rate of the building. The unit must move to within 1 inch of the building. Remove the unit from the battlefield. Now it's garrisoning the building. While garrisoning a building, the unit is considered to be of gigantic size for line of sight and cover. To occupy the boundary rectangle of the building,
because the building has to be on a rectangular base.
Correct. And to keep the formation, number of rank and files it had when entering the building. Okay. The unit is considered to have its front arc facing towards all directions. So you have a 360 front arc.
There's no flanks.
Every model can draw a line of sight from any point of the building and in any direction. So all your models can see everything.
So like a skirmisher.
The garrisoning unit cannot move other than reforming, and it's when you switch to a new formation, of course, you can't go more than 125 millimeters wide or deep, or leaving the building. Those are the only move options it has: is reforming or leaving the building.
Right.
Okay. Set ablaze. Units garrisoning a building gain flammable.
So it's a nice target for flame cannons.
Yeah, it looks like it would be. Units garrisoning a building gain fearless and stubborn and are automatically destroyed when broken. They may not flee.
Yeah, that's an important thing to remember. There's no running away.
But you're fearless and stubborn.
Yes.
So that kind of helps a little bit. Anyone...
So you can't be panicked, which is...
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Good.
Leaving a building. The only way to leave a building is by making a special type of reform. The unit is deployed in any legal formation, so line or regular, with all models fully within their march rate from the building and with at least one model 1 inch from the building. The unit cannot move further, not even if the unit has light troops, and this cannot be made as part of a swift reform. So basically, you take the unit out and you just set it up in whatever formation you want, right out 1 inch away from the building. There's only one model, so it doesn't say you have to be at any particular alignment from the building.
Correct.
So you can go up from the corner, the way this is defined. And you just basically have to be in a legal formation, and no one can...
All within March move.
Within March move. Okay, shooting and measuring from a building. Up to 10 models, no matter how many are inside, up to 10 models may shoot from a building. Units garrisoning a building are considered to be in hard cover, so if you're shot at, you're always considered to be in hard cover. So -2 to hit. To measure distances from and to any model of a garrison unit, measure to and from the closest point on the footprint of the building. So the same thing, you just pick the boundary rectangle of the building, measure from any point, so any corner or whatever.
Right.
Assaulting a building. Okay. Declaring and resolving charges against a unit in a building is done following the normal rules with the following exceptions. So you still declare charges as normal and see if you can get there. Move the charging unit into contact with the building, assuming you made it. Aligning and maximizing contact is normal, so you're aligning with the building, not worrying about who's inside. Treat the buildings as a single model. The building cannot be moved when aligning units, so if you have some impossible charge and you can't get there, you can't get there in that case.
You can't close the door to it, it doesn't close the door
exactly.
to you.
There's no wheels.
Yes,
These aren't mobile homes. The garrison unit is always considered to be charged in the front. So back to the earlier point, you're never charged, no matter how many directions you're attacked from, it's always a frontal attack, so no negatives for flanks and rears.
Assaulting and garrisoning units do not attack each other. Instead, assaulting and garrisoning units do not attack each other. Right. Instead, they attack the building. Oh, that clears up my other point. So even the garrison unit attacks the building.
Yes.
Instead, they attack the building as if it were a single enemy model. Assaulting units attack it as normal, base contact and supporting attacks. Only models in the front rank of the garrisoning building can attack. Garrisoning models cannot issue or accept duels. The building has a defensive skill 10. Stomp attacks and impact to hits cannot be used against a building.
Right.
So, if you're attacking a building,
don't use zombies.
If you're attacking a building, you can use zombies because 10 of them can attack.
Yes.
And the defenders, only 5 of them can attack you back, or 6 if they're
but you're not you're not hitting them so well with a defensive skill of 10.
Correct, but at least your zombies have a defensive skill of 10 as well.
Yeah.
Because he's not hitting your zombies either.
Right.
So you add up all your hits. Hits are scored by assaulting units are now distributed on the garrisoning units, and the hits scored by the garrisoning units are distributed to the assaulting units. Makes sense now. If there are more than one assaulting unit, the owner of the garrisoning unit divides the hits as evenly as possible between all units.
Right.
So your unit of goblins and your unit of iron orcs both attacking a building, they divide them evenly as possible, and then the extra hit he's going to put on your iron orcs probably.
Right.
Calculate the combat scores and roll break tests as normal. It doesn't say, but I'm assuming that this is at your base strength. They get their armor save, their ward saves.
Well, they said
because it's assigning. You're distributing the hits, not wounds.
Right.
So
they said it was before, except for as described below. So
okay. If the garrison unit is destroyed, remember that breaking garrison unit is considered destroyed. One of the assaulting units may choose to enter the building, provided it has the right size, type, and boundary rectangle, if it is not still engaged in combat. If the assaulting unit does not enter the building, follow the rules for assaulting units that stop fighting. Okay. Um, if the assaulting unit breaks, it flees as normal. The garrisoning unit cannot pursue. If there are still units left engaged in the combat, the winning side may choose what each assaulting unit will do. You can continue, stay in the fight, or stop fighting. Assaulting units engaged in combat with other units than the garrisoning unit must continue fighting. So if you're in a three-way thing or whatever.
Right, and one of them's against you, stuck.
An assaulting unit that continues fighting will remain engaged in combat with the garrisoning unit. Both units can combat reform if able to. And again, they can't go. The garrisoning unit can't go to more than 125 wide or deep.
Right.
And an assaulting unit that stops fighting is nudged an inch away from the building, or as far as possible without breaking the unit spacing rule, and then performs either a post-combat pivot or a post-combat reform.
Right.
So if you want to stop fighting them, you move an inch away and make your pivot or reform.
Right.
So it's no longer you just bounce back an inch and have to sit there staring at the building for next turn.
You can face whatever. And it's possible that you could charge the building with a unit that can't go in the building. So that's the reason. Because it's too big.
So you can kill them and then just
you
not
can kill
go
them
in.
and you just sit there. You can't occupy it because you're too big. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically now anything can attack something in a building.
Right.
As opposed, to prior versions where there was limitations on
certain troop types and all that. So anything can attack it in the building, but only certain units of certain sizes can go into buildings, and the buildings have been set at a standard size. No matter how big your model is, it has to have that rectangle.
Correct. There's a lot of changes in here. I'm gonna have to play it a few times and see how it comes out. Right?
Oh yeah, most definitely. It seems buildings are gonna be quite important. It seems.
It looks like they might be.
Yeah.
All right, moving on
to chasms. This is the new terrain type. It's impassable terrain. It's pretty simple.
And cliffs.
And it doesn't do anything to line of sight, so
not at all.
It will stop visibility.
A chunk of terrain that's impassable.
Yeah.
Cliffs are opaque and impassable.
Cliff Clavin?
Yeah, apparently you can't shoot through it.
He's very opaque.
This is your old blocking impassable terrain.
Yeah, it's a hill with a cliff on it.
Yes, that you can't go over.
Right.
Yeah.
Fields. Fields are covering terrain, which means you get concealment if you're in them. Fields contribute to soft cover, except for models with towering presence, so they get no bonus. However, the change here is they're no longer flammable. They no longer cause people to be in them to be flammable.
Correct, and they're no longer dangerous.
And they're no longer dangerous terrain for cavalry.
Correct. So a couple of little changes.
No longer dangerous terrain with cavalry's.
Yeah, so fields are a lot less significant than they used to be.
Horses no longer fear eating in the fields.
As long as they don't run, they're fine.
Exactly.
Forests are covering terrain for units inside or behind them. Dangerous terrain for cav, constructs, and units making a flying movement. They contribute to soft cover. Units with more than half their footprint in a forest can never be steadfast. And units with more than half their footprint in a forest and consisting entirely of infantry with light troops, excluding models with towering presence and or fly, are stubborn. There's a lot in that sentence.
Yes, there is.
Anyway, if your light troops
it's the same.
You get stubborn.
I don't see anything that's different.
No, it looks the same to me.
Yeah. So it's the same. Still dangerous terrain. Run, forest, run, and no change. Hills. Okay. Hills are opaque terrain, meaning you can't see through them, for the purpose of the rules. For units behind them. Hills contribute soft cover to targets behind, but partially on them.
Why? That's actually weird. Hills are opaque terrain for units behind them. Yes. Why is that different than like a cliff? It's just opaque terrain.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming it anyway. Sorry.
It's the same. Just they probably.
I guess you can be on a hill, so they're specifying.
Yeah. Hills contribute soft cover to targets behind, but partially on them.
Correct.
So if part of your unit is on the hill, but you are behind the hill, so like you've kind of walked up to it, you've maybe got your first rank just on the edge.
Yep.
You would then be soft cover if they could see at least less than half of you. but at least some of you. Then hills contribute hardcover targets behind entirely off them. So it's the same thing. If you're looking around the hill,
these three didn't change.
They didn't change. It's the same. It's just how it's written. You have to read it carefully
a couple times to make sure.
Elevated position. This is different. When determining cover, all models with more than half their base on a hill and all models shooting at parts of unit's footprint that is on the hill ignore all intervening models not on a hill. When drawing line of sight or to or from a model on a hill, ignore all other models not on a hill. So you're no longer gigantic.
If you're on a hill.
If you're on a hill, kills that video. And you basically just see over everything.
Correct.
Charging,
see over other other models.
Yeah, over other models, yes.
Not over terrain.
Yes, over all other models. A unit initiating a charge move with more than half its footprint on a hill towards an enemy with more than half its footprint off a hill must re-roll failed charge rolls. So you no longer get the +1 combat res that you got before. Instead, you get a free re-roll if you fail your charge.
Yeah, which is, to me, better.
Yeah, very nice.
Yes, much better to me. Anyway, I like that change. Yeah, it's going to change the line of sight stuff a bit. But I think I like this is a nice change.
Yeah.
Clears up some stuff.
Yes.
Ruins are covering terrain for units inside them. Dangerous terrain 2 for cav and constructs without skirmisher. And dangerous terrain 1 for any other unit without skirmisher.
So even light troops have to take dangerous terrain. Only if you have the skirmisher.
Skirmisher do not get taken.
Yeah.
Runes contribute to hard cover, except for models with towering presence. So if you're just too big to hide in the ruins.
Right. Well, the infernal dwarves have the Strider for ruins.
The ruin Strider rule.
It didn't look very impressive when we saw it a while ago, but now that we see that ruins can be much more common.
Correct.
It's actually a nice advantage. Walls. Why are you building walls, man? Walls are covering terrain for models behind them while defending the wall, and dangerous terrain for constructs, so chariots and such. Walls contribute to hard cover, except for models with towering presence. Defending a wall. In order to defend a wall, more than half of a unit's front-facing, not side or rear, must be in contact with the wall. Combat. Units defending a wall gain distracting, -1 to hit, against close combat attacks from charging enemies in their front.
Okay. So a couple things have changed. Walls are no longer dangerous terrain to cav. Some fairly major change.
Mm-hmm.
You can't lose an entire unit to a wall.
Yeah.
I think that's the big one, and now they're dangerous terrain 2 for constructs where they used to be ones.
Yes, and I've got a lot of bloody walls in my gaming.
Yes.
Lost many a rider.
All right, moving on. Water. Water is now dangerous terrain 1 for standard side models on foot. Units with more than half their footprint in water can never be steadfast, and all melee attacks against or by models in units with more than half their footprint inside a water terrain feature lose flaming attacks if they had it. So
It's fluffy.
it is. Douse the flames. I'm going to park my trolls in the nearest swamp I can find.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't help me from flaming arrows, but
Yeah.
whatever. And I think that's it for terrain. Look at that.
Yeah. So that's the interesting. I guess the big change here. I mean, to me, the two biggest thing is, well, buildings are their own category out to
Correct.
anyway. But as far as all the other terrain, the big thing is cavalry now is very effective in a lot of places it didn't used to be effective.
Correct. No, it doesn't take dangerous
Doesn't
terrain
take terrain
for water,
anywhere hardly.
walls.
So you're better off using cavalry in a lot of places than you were. Heck, you're better using cavalry in dangerous terrain and water than you were before. So that's quite different. And the visibility from hills.
Correct. Yep. All right. That's going to do it for this section.
That's the review of terrain. Till the next one.